Hey, this is Dr. Linda Davis, and today I want to take you through an exercise in GIMP. I've got an aerial image here, and I'm going to do a property outline of it and make that property line bigger and bolder. And then I'm also going to desaturate the bordering properties. So let's run through those instructions. So what you see here is the finished detail on this, but let me bring up the original on this one. So let me open in GIMP, and I'll bring up this, and here we go with the original picture. So I'm going to first go up to Tools, and I'm going to select Paths, and then I'm going to click the property corners, and I'm going to click starting right here. Actually have the property up on the property tax assessor's office so I can kind of see what they count as it. It won't be exact, but it will give anybody interested in the property a rough idea of how the property lines roll on this. And I hit the back corners. I'm going back to the front, and then the front cuts over along in here, and then it runs out to the road, to the highway, and then back over. You want to make sure you go maybe even just a little past your first dot. The main thing is you've got to connect all the way around and finish where you started. So you can kind of see the little white line that went around using paths. And now I'm going to bold that up, change the color of it as well. And on this same area, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to select Edit, and then I'm going to select Stroke Path, which gives you that ability to tell it you want either a line or a paintbrush. I'm just going to do stroke line. I'm going to pick a solid color. Now the colors are over here, obviously your foreground color and your background color. So I've got a bright yellow as my active foreground color. Going to go with that. Now, as far as the line width, you may need to adjust that. I have mine at 21 points to get the thickness that I need. And initially it may come up with PX instead of PT, PX meaning pixel, PT meaning point. I prefer to work with PT for point value. And then so we have that all configured, and then I'll hit stroke and let it do its thing. So now you can see it's nicely outlined it in yellow. And then the next step is to desaturate the bordering properties. So again, we can right click on the path, and I can go down to select, and I'm going to select from path. Don't do invert right here. Instead, go to select from path. Okay, and that selects the original path, but this is where we next do it again, and this time we select invert. Now, that minor change, what happens there? Well, you still think your property is selected, which it is, but it's not selecting your actual property. It's selecting that as the outline for all these other properties. The marching ants are going around your property, as I like to call them, the marching ants. But it's also activated the outside border of the image. So it's selected everything outside the actual property you're featuring. Now, at this point, you have the right thing selected. So let's go in to colors on your menu. And on colors, you want to go down to hue, saturation. And there's some lightness and saturation levels that we want to dial down. So I'm just going to take my mouse and dial down the lightness, dial down the saturation for what we have selected. And that's how you can desaturate the boundary properties. Now, once you have that done, you want to say OK. And just as a good practice tool, I like to go up to image, and I like to say merge visible layers, whether there's just one thing going on or not. and I'll just merge it. And I also like to, as far as saving it, I like to use File, Export As all the time. And I'm going to rename it. I'll just say Finished Property Outline. And maybe even, if you're doing this for real estate purposes, just put the address of the property there so you can keep them all separated. That would be a good best practices too. Now, typically, this one happened to be a JPEG, and I'm going to change it just to a PNG, just because I prefer .png files versus JPEG files. And so I can just call it Finished Property Outline, and I can say Export, and export again. And just a side note, if you wanted to add a text layer, maybe the text layer has the address of the property on it, or the text layer has a disclaimer that these are not, actual survey markers. This is just an approximation of the survey boundaries, then put a text layer on there. And again, merge visible layers after you do that. So now I'm just completing the export process. So I'm going to hit export and let GIMP do its thing. Watch your green bar. Okay. And even though this may be the one you were kind of working on, if you look back into, I'll go back into my Windows Explorer, and I have, I think in pictures, I have this running to that. I have real estate, yeah. And then Finished Property Outline. That's the finished version there, waiting on me to use in however way I choose to use it. So hopefully that'll give you some new tools to use in GIMP that are more toward business pursuits. So walk through it and have a great day. Thanks for your time.